Okay, so this is video 3 of 3 of how to deal with discussion in assessment. Please make sure that you've watched video 1 and 2 before you get to this one, because we've read about max, we know that we have to do a discussion, and we've used our Zorro or IPAC method to plan for the answer. Now, just before we get into the detail, you guys, this question is 20 marks, okay? Which means you can't just write 1 or 2 paragraphs and expect to get 20 marks. You have to write enough so that you can get 20 marks. But on the other hand, you have to address 4 amounts. So you can't be writing pages and pages and pages. You've got 30 minutes to answer this question. And in those 30 minutes, you have to address all 4 of those amounts, right? So let me show you how your structure and layout is going to look like to make sure that you get the most amount of marks. Okay, now if you think about our IPAC method, the first thing we do, or the Zorro method, is we identify the issue, right? And the issue is, you know, whether these amounts are deductible. So you write down the legislation, and that's what I did over here. The general deduction formula says these are the components that you have to comply with. You get your marks. Right. You also, because this is a discussion question, address the provisions of Section 102 of the Tax Administration Act. And the Tax Administration Act, Section 102, says that the burden of proof rests upon Max, the taxpayer. Right, great. So I've got my legislation down, and I've got my Tax Admin Act issue also out of the way. Right, now I have 4 amounts I have to deal with, and I need to show my marker that I am dealing with each of these separately. So for the first one, the 30,000 Rand erection of the billboard, have a look at what it looks like, right? I have a heading, the 30,000 Rand erection of the billboard, and I've drawn a line underneath my heading so that my marker knows, listen, this is what I'm going to be discussing at this point, right? So, and I just want to show you how we discuss. Okay, firstly, what is the issue? For the billboard, all requirements of the general deduction formula have been met, except whether 30,000 Rand is of a capital nature or not. Okay, so capital in nature, that's my issue. I've identified it. What is the principle, right? And this follows IPAC, or the Zorro method: issue, principle, application, conclusion. What is the principle? An amount will be capital in nature if it creates enduring benefit for the taxpayer. What is my court case for this? BP. You could also use new state areas, saying the cost of establishing income earning assets, or Rand mines, it's amounts expended to acquire or create income earning assets. Whichever ones, you'll get a mark for the principle in the court case. I just need to stop here and just warn you, right? A principle in a court case is theory, right? It means nothing if it's not applied to information in a question. In semester test 1, for example, at question 3, where you had to discuss whether Roman was a resident of South Africa, quite a few students, when they looked at ordinarily resident, simply listed the Cohen and Cuttle court cases with their principles without applying it to the information in the question. Now, if you just put down the court case name and the court case principle, you are not necessarily going to get marks. Okay, it's about taking that principle, taking that court case, and applying it to the information in your question. So, if that is my principle, how do I apply? The erection of the billboard creates enduring benefit for Max's business. Okay, it will be up for an extended period of time and people will see it every day. And therefore, conclusion, the 30,000 Rand is capital in nature and is not deductible. Okay, I'm done. I've dealt with the 30,000 Rand. Now I can go on to the 80,000 Rand. Again, look, I've got a heading, the 80,000 Rand. Okay, now this one was not that big of an issue because it's a recurring. The ads are recurring, so the expense is for a recurring event. So it does not create enduring benefit. It's more for income earning, the working of the income earning operations, and not adding to the income earning structure. And therefore, the requirements of the general deduction formula have been met, as the ongoing adverts is a recurring expense that does not create enduring benefit. And conclusion, the 80,000 Rand is therefore deductible. Okay, now we have 2 amounts left. Let's have a look at those. Okay, now the fine of 10,000 Rand by the local municipality, my mark plan over here is a bit wonky. So I'm going to show you how the marks will be allocated here. Again, using IPAC or Zorro, the issue whether it's incurred in the production of income. What is my court case in principle? My court case is PE Electric Tramway, right? Now have a look. You are not just getting a mark for writing down PE Electric Tramway. You will be getting the mark because you're using PE Electric Tramway in a specific way. It's part of a full sentence and it's got a specific reason and context as to why it's used. In terms of PE Electric Tramway, 2 questions need to be asked to determine whether an amount is incurred in the production of income. You are not just going to get marks if you write down the correct court case without properly structuring your sentence. Okay, so that's the mark for the case. PE Tramway had 2 questions. What is the act that led to the expense? And is this act closely connected to Max's business operations? Now we go over to application. What is the act that led to the expense? He erected the billboard. He was fined because it obstructed pedestrian traffic, so the contravention of a local law. Is this act, the contravention of a local law, closely connected to the business operations of providing security services? And the answer is no. Okay, he provides security services. His business does not have that close link to contravening local laws. Okay, so conclusion, the 10,000 Rand is therefore not incurred in the production of income because we're addressing that issue and will not be deductible. But you're not done. Because you are dealing with a fine, you also have to think about Section 23 that prohibits the deduction of specific expenses. Now again, I'm not requiring you to write down the section number. You can write the Income Tax Act specifically prohibits the deduction of the 10,000 Rand fine. Okay, but if you can start knowing that section number, all the better for your future tax studies. Right, that's done. I move over to my last one, moving costs of 2,000 Rand. And if you work through this one, you'll see, again, I use my Zorro method. The issue is whether it's of a capital nature or not. What is my principle? You know, it relates to the income producing structure of the business and not the income earning operations. So new state areas or Rand mines. Okay, you get a mark for the principle, mark for the case. Then apply the 2,000 Rand is closely related to the billboard, right, which represents the income producing structure of Max's business, and it's therefore capital in nature. Come to a conclusion. It is therefore not deductible in terms of the general deduction formula. Right, so if you have a look at my answer, I've written enough to get 20 marks, right? The mark plan, you'll see you have a total of 24 marks available. There's usually a bit more marks available in a discussion question, but it's limited to a maximum of 20. Right, so that concludes video 3 of 3. So just to recap, this video has been divided up into 3 separate videos to assist you with how to deal with discussion questions in assessments. Please, any feedback is welcome. If you've got questions or comments, send it through to brouwerl@ufs.ac.za. I also appreciate any feedback on how I can make these videos better, and also some other things that you might need help on that I could consider to make videos on. Please send those through to me as well. Right. Have a wonderful day and study hard.